The Bedwars Leaderboards, the ultimate symbol of status and skill. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how you can get on the solo Bedwars or any Bedwars leaderboards. Since I'm a solo main, I'll be talking about solos as an example, but this can apply to every single leaderboard. Obviously, solos is quite hard right now since it's become pretty competitive. This number has gone up quite a lot in the last few months. If you look at daily, there's already someone with 100 daily wins. But basically, there's a few main things you will need when getting on the leaderboards. I'm just going to make this simple for you and tell you what I know through my life of grinding solo Bedwars. And some of you may know at one point I was number 11, and I can technically stretch that and say number 10 since there were two cheaters on the, or number 9 since there were two cheaters on the lifetime leaderboards back then. But, oh well. Well, obviously the first major thing you need to get on the Bedwars leaderboard is wins and finals. Around a few years ago, I would say a good amount to get on the solo leaderboards would be around 25 to 30, and slowly doubles was not nearly as popular back then as well, so that would be fairly similar, maybe around 30-35. Threes would be very similar as well, but obviously fours was the big game mode back then, and I would definitely say 60, 70, 80, 90 for that, which to be fair wasn't that hard to do since people could win very fast even back then in fours, and it was much easier, plus it wasn't too far away to grind for, so it wouldn't be that hard. Nowadays, there's been a bit of a shift. Fours is still quite popular, but I don't think it's as competitive as it used to be. Solos is very competitive, and doubles has also become a much bigger game mode, and I think it's definitely the most popular game mode right now. Solos, in my opinion, would probably be the hardest leaderboard to get on right now, since while there isn't as many people competing for it or playing solos, the amount of the skill needed to be winning solos is much more, since a lot of the people who do play solos are quite good. There are a fair few number of big grinders in solos who are getting a ton of wins. Zed Gaming, Sprinterek, and people like that who regularly get 70, 80, 90 daily wins a day. So solos is quite hard to get on, however I would say 50, 60 wins nowadays per day. Or if you're closer to the leaderboards already, around 40, sustaining 40 for a very long period of time, for months to a year, would get you on the leaderboard in my opinion. I would say it depends how far you are as well. Some people are closer to the leaderboard, some people aren't. If you really are very far away, then it will take you a fair bit of work, and you definitely need to average around 50 solo daily wins a day. But that may sound like a lot, but now I'm going to put into perspective how much it really is, how much time it's going to take, and basically outline this entire process for you. So if you're quite good at the game, 50 daily wins will only be around, it could be around 4.5 hours. However, we'll put a rough estimate of 5 hours for quite a good player. You don't need to be very good at PvP or anything, you just need to be consistently winning games and not losing that much. In terms of grinding, I'm not going to be giving many Bedwars game tips since I've done that before, but more grinding related tips. Try not to get distracted, try and be focused at all times, and concentrate on your game. I wouldn't say play as aggressively as you can, because you can obviously lose and that sets you back in time quite a bit, but play fast but steady, I guess, because you want to lose as little as possible, since losses obviously waste the most amount of time. You'd rather have a long win than a short game but then a loss. So I would suggest trying to win, maybe sacrificing a bit of speed for win rate. For a decent player, you will be able to average about 7 wins an hour, I would say. That number goes up to around 10 to 11 if you're a better player. Obviously, there are some people who are very good at the game and could easily win 10, 11, 12 games an hour, but obviously they get distracted. They get distracted basically by a range of different things. So it's important to be concentrating, and the most important thing is actually in-game playing Bedwars during your grinding. Because a lot of times you might see people who play for 6, 7, 8 hours, but they barely get any solo wins because half the time they're doing something else, or talking to someone, or in a lobby, or just wasting time that they could have used to be in a game. Obviously, a major thing people say is, oh, what if I'm not skilled enough? Skill is actually very unnecessary to get in the leaderboards. It's 90% time and the rest is just skill, determination, not getting bored, stuff like that. But in terms of skill, you just need to be fairly decent at Bedwars. This guide is mainly made for people who already are pretty decent. If you're not very good at the game, then I've made a whole range of other guides for you to watch. Those can help you get up to speed maybe, and of course playtime. But if you're already fairly good and you have the time, it's a good thing to consider. It's still very hard, but it is, if you really have the time and are quite competitive, it's a pretty good thing to go for. And it is possible because you don't need to be incredibly skilled, you just need to be able to be concentrated and be able to win games fairly consistently, fast, and without getting distracted as much, because that's what these people do pretty well. As you can see, Stards 125, Sprint Trek 93, they will consistently get well above 50 daily wins a day, just because they spend 5, 6, 7 hours, which may seem a lot, but a lot of people already spend that much but barely get nearly the amount of wins because they're just distracted, and these people are pretty concentrated and are always, I guess, on task. But really, with solo Bedwars, or even any Bedwars game, it's about getting, I guess, an achievable amount for you, not too high since you can obviously get burnt out, and that's one of the mistakes I see a lot of people making. For example, Talent, he tried too hard and he said he was going to be #1 by the end of the year, and you can obviously, but for him it was too hard, and after he did 850 weekly solo wins, which is over 120 per day, he got burnt out and he stopped playing Bedwars, and I think he's just quit permanently now. Like, a good example of this is, a good example of what you should do, I guess, is Primex, or however else you pronounce it. I remember in 2019, he was nowhere near the leaderboard, but in 2019, he would get 40, 50, 60 wins of solo Bedwars a day, and over time, he slowly accumulated that, and he got on the leaderboards by 2020, and through that year, he got up to #2, and I guess that's where he is now. He is actually within sort of achievable range of beating Hashito if he wants to, and he has said that he might do that. I'm not sure if he will do that, but he could, he really could. He's only 4,000 wins away, which if he managed to get to 15,000 so far, he can definitely do 4,000. So if you do think about it, there are 24 hours in a single day, and 4,000 wins, for example, is 100 days of 40 wins per day, and 40 wins a day, if done well, can be around 4 hours, and it's actually achievable while maintaining your life and everything like that. Which is why, if you play Bedwars really efficiently, the Bedwars leaderboards are quite achievable and not too unrealistic of a thing to get. I will talk a little bit about my experiences with going for the leaderboards, and well, I'll begin now. Around 2017, obviously, I started playing Bedwars. I quite enjoyed it, and I would play mostly doubles back then. And then I figured solos would be easier since instead of just solo queuing whenever my cousin wasn't online. So I decided I'd play solos, and then I saw that solos was extremely, I guess, uncompetitive back then, so it was very easy to get on the top 1000, top 200 back then. So I decided I really want to get on the top 200 solo players, or I think it was either top 1000 or top 200, I'm not too sure. Plank, I don't think showed up to top 1000 back then, but they may have showed up to top 200, and I really wanted to see myself on that, so I decided, I'm gonna get these couple, I think it was 400 solo wins back then, and maybe like 1,000 something finals, and eventually got on the top 200 or / top 1000. I think it was top 200 for that leaderboard. And then I sort of just kept climbing up to top 50, top 30, top 20, and then I got to top 15, and this is when it started slowing down. Obviously from top 15, while solos were still pretty uncompetitive, there was a much bigger gap between the leaderboard players and the non-leaderboard players, so I did have to try a bit harder. I would try and sustain 10, 20, 30 daily wins a day, and back then it was harder to get wins since people weren't as good, but even I wasn't as good, so you would gain wins slower, and people didn't know all the good strategies they know back like right now. So I would say I did try hard. I could have tried harder, but obviously back then I wasn't as efficient. I didn't really know as much, so I probably made a few mistakes back then. Then I got to top 12, top 11. I was 1800 finals away, a couple, I mean maybe like 900 wins away as well. But I stopped playing since I was too tired, since I got into the mistake of I was playing too much, but I wasn't playing Bedwars that much. So I was online a lot, so I was spending a lot of time, but I wasn't in game, or I wasn't winning games all that time, so that was wasted a lot of time, but it still tired me, and I guess that's why I stopped playing, since I got very bored. Maybe if I had been more efficient or smarter, I would have maybe gotten on the leaderboards, but that was a long time back, so I'm not sure. I don't even remember half of it. So this really shows that probably one of the more important parts of solo leaderboard grinding, or just grinding for the leaderboards in general, is to try and not get burnt out by playing too hard, too fast. Always try and sustain a good rate. And one way I try to do this is, you can say you're trying to get on the leaderboards by the end of the year and it's the start of the year. I would divide your gap, or how far away you are from the solo leaderboards or whatever leaderboards, and divide it by say 365 days, and then that shows you the amount you need to catch up per day to get on the leaderboards. And I guess sustain a bit higher than that for the year. Obviously judge yourself and see if it's a realistic goal for you, since for some people it might not be. Say if you have 0 solo wins already, and then getting 10,000 solo wins in a year might be still fairly hard, a couple 20, 30, catching up to the leaderboards by 20, 30 wins a day, which probably is more around 40, 50 wins a day, and you obviously want to do a bit more than that, so that might be quite hard, but it is still possible. The moral of the story is, getting on the leaderboards doesn't require too much skill, it just requires time, and even with that, it doesn't require that much time. It's more about being very efficient and smart with how you play. And if you do this, if you can sustain a medium to slightly high amount of wins for a long period of time, that's how you can get on the Bedwars leaderboards. So I hope this helped you. Maybe one of you will get on the Bedwars leaderboards one day, but this might just help you with maybe grinding for something else, maybe not even the Bedwars leaderboards, something else, because this doesn't really apply to just Bedwars, it's just efficiency and stuff like that. Maybe the Excel tip or graph tip helped you about dividing your wins by gap by your days that you're gonna play for. You can make charts out of that and stuff like that, like I've done just for fun, since I know I like doing that. And maybe one of you will be here or here or here or here one day. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this shorter video, I hope it helped, and the big video is still coming, and I think we're getting down to the part where it's a lot of editing now and recording. I got a bit delayed since I was sick, but it should be out in 2 months, maybe around that much, but I'll see you then when I release it. Goodbye and thank you for watching.